Welcome everybody to Kids Just Want to Have Fun, and AT Can Make That Happen with Judith Schoonover. Before we begin, we'd just like to have a few housekeeping tips. We ask that you please turn off your video and keep your mics muted so that way we can make sure everybody is able to hear the presentation. If you would like to use captions, they have been enabled. You can access the closed captioning at the bottom of the screen, ask for the live transcript. If you have any questions, please put them into the chat and the speaker will be able to get to them at the end of the presentation. To bring up your chat quickly, you can press Alt-H. This meeting will end on time, so please be aware that if the speaker is still talking, they may be cut off so the next session can begin on time. Now we would like to ask Ms. Schooner to go begin her presentation, and we hope you have a great learning experience.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm so excited that you're joining me today to talk about play. I hope that you will participate and talk about what you're seeing, talk about your experiences, anything to add to the learning that we're going to do together today. As I was introduced, I'm Judy Schoonover, and this is my grandson, Kellen, and he loves to play. And I want you to think about play for a minute, because I think it's really a window into everything that we do from on out. And the thing that's so wonderful about children is that they with abandon. They make up tools when they play. When we have students that we're working with and they have a disability, they're not able to do that in the same way. And so I want us to take play seriously and think about what we can do to make it better. So these are today's objectives, and I'm not going to spend any time with them at all because I have 70 some slides and I have 45 minutes. I'm going to apologize in advance. I had a friend that said, oh, you know, we have to make these things interactive, and I totally agree. And he said, I am not going to be talking at my audience, and I'm afraid I am a little bit, but I have left you a ton of resources and if there's an underline to that exact resource that I've discussed. In addition, you see the bit.ly in the chat, and I've covered up the chat right now so I can concentrate on my slides. So you can see the bit.ly in the that will take you to a PDF of this presentation as well as a folder full of resources. So when we treat children's play as seriously as it deserves, we are starting to think about how important it is. We are helping students in ways to find their creative spirit. And I'm not going to read this quote to you, and half of it's covered up by my toolbar, so I can't see it well anyway. So I just want you to absorb that. There is a right to play. And it has been written up in several different documents. If you do a search in your browser, you can find several different versions. But since this is a conference about disability rights, I thought that we should first and foremost think about the right to play with our young kids. Play is powerful. It supports skill development, cognition, emotional and social well-being, language, motor, and so on. When we start to think about play, we need to start thinking about how we can set up our students and our families for success. And I developed this presentation years ago, but it really changed my perspective when COVID hit and our kids who were in the classroom were sent home without a lot of their play resources, without a lot of their tools, the things that were specialized and designed especially for them. And I started thinking about how we could provide those kinds of resources for people at home and give them permission to be creative with the things that they have available. I just want to point out again, these links will take you directly to the additional information. So this is additional information on the SET framework, and it will go directly again from the link on the slide. So if you're not familiar with it, and I have a feeling everybody at this conference is, you can learn more about it and how you might think about the SET framework, not just for an individual student, but for groups of students, like a preschool classroom. So the Wisconsin Assistive Technology Initiative has come out with some wonderful documents. These have been updated several years. If you haven't had a chance to explore them, I've linked them to the bottom. And as you can see on the screen, this is just the continuum of play or leisure time considerations that we might think about when we're talking about play. And for the most part, what I'll be talking about today is typical toys adapted, specially designed equipment, some electronic and digital resources, but I really wanted to concentrate on the hands-on stuff first, because sometimes when bandwidth isn't working, that we're going to be talking mental supports. And this slide has a lot of information and examples of environmental supports. This is from the Let's Play project in Buffalo, which is no longer live, but there are a lot of the resources still exist on the internet. We're going to be talking about positioners. We're going to be talking about stabilizers, and I'm going to be showing you some examples. So I'm not going to go through these on this particular slide, but it's just there for your reference so you know what we're going to be talking about next. So here's something about positioners, and I really like these because they can be done anywhere and with anything. When you think about positioners, we have to be positioned well to be engaged and to be successful and to be able to use our eyes and our bodies to explore. So that can be made with very simple things. One of my favorite positioners is the laundry basket positioner that you can see at the upper right-hand corner. That's just made with a laundry basket, a PVC pipe, and a pool noodle that has been slipped around the PVC pipe to help position the students so they can sit upright and use their hands. There are a number of ways that you can position students. I've got 2 links at the bottom, one to make a weighted lap buddy to help the students sit and maintain a stable sitting position. And then the other link is 5 ways to support a wobbly sitter. And we're going to talk a little bit more about positioning next. So we want to set up our students for success, and we can do that with things that we can purchase online or with do-it-yourself adaptations. So you can see again the laundry basket positioner. You can see that we can use copy boxes or any kind of box as an additional footrest, attaching it to a chair so students have a way of pushing their bottoms back in the chair by having their feet flat on a surface. We have the orange crate positioner at the bottom, and I love this one because oftentimes when I've recommended in the past have a student sit on a ball instead of on their traditional desk chair, and the balls go slipping and sliding across the room. This arrangement of having the ball inside an orange crate stabilizes that ball, but at the same time gives that vestibular input that a student might need. And finally, on the lower right-hand corner, we see a positioning seat that's been created out of one of those buckets from Home Depot. It's just been cut out and a cushion has been set in. And I'm sure you have other examples, and so I would love it if you would put them in the chat. So let's talk a little bit about stabilizers, because a lot of times when our kids are playing, they need external methods of stabilizing those toys so they don't slip out from under them, so they don't lose the pieces and parts, and so they can keep upright, especially if the student is having difficulty using both hands together. So you can see that we've got an example of a store-bought top, and then we've got an example of a stabilized top where the base of the top has been set into a piece of plywood and anchored there, so that all the student really needs to do is activate the knob. Other ways of stabilizing very simply are some of the do-it-yourself things, like attaching a shower curtain ring to a toy so it's easier to grip and move around, or using Velcro to arrange a sorting activity or a play activity. And we can talk a little bit more about that too. I have some other slides that address that. So here's some examples of making things stable. On the left-hand side, you have a Melissa and Doug dress-up activity. This is a little wooden doll, and she's got wooden clothes that can be placed on her with magnets that attach them to her body. But the do-it-yourself adaptation for a student that maybe can't stabilize to dress the doll. Maybe the doll tips over or whatever. So this has been adapted by being placed on a wedge. It could be placed on a notebook. This happens to be a plywood wedge. All the parts to the activity have been placed on a cookie sheet. And then we've also added some visuals so that the student can select the colors of the clothing that she wants the doll to be dressed in. And perhaps there's a play partner who will assist her in dressing the doll if she can't do it by herself. So there's a lot of dollar store stabilizers that you can find very simply. My favorite stabilizer, and you'll see me talking about this a lot, is the carpet squares that you can get at the dollar store. They're like a really low nap and they're Velcro sensitive. So you can stabilize just about anything by attaching Velcro to what you want to stabilize it and place this carpet sorts of different shapes and sizes. Don't tell the guardians of the paper cutters in your buildings if you work in a school, but they do cut very nicely on a paper cutter. So you can make sure that you've customized the mat so it fits your purposes. Oftentimes I've put that mat inside a cafeteria tray or a cookie sheet to offer some barriers around to keep things too much. And as you these displays, or you can have a more one-dimensional display.
Yep.
This is a Mr. Potato Head activity that's been stabilized on a carpet square and scaffolded with sequenced pictures. And this was actually from the it's the Tool Toy Box from Hasbro. They don't have this particular activity anymore, but I'll be talking about what Hasbro has to offer towards the end of this presentation. And what they have to offer is fantastic. They take the Hasbro toys and then they scaffold them and they give you all sorts of things that you're able to download, sequencing first then cards, timer cards, and then they also give social scripts. So it's a really nice way of exploring play in lots of different ways. If you are not familiar with Mama OT and her blog, she has a lot of ideas for play, and I highly recommend taking a peek at that. And one of them is 30 developmental benefits of playing with Potato Head. So I'm not going to click on that because you have that PDF and you can click on it and explore it yourself. And again, I apologize, I'm going to talk at you, but I couldn't cut my slides. There were so many different things that I thought you might enjoy having the links to that. I just went ahead and left all those slides in and hope that you didn't mind exploring on your own. And you can be doing that right now since you have the PDF available to you. Again, working those magic carpet squares. And this is kind of a mashup of several different toys, as you can see on the left. We've got some puzzle pieces. We've got a musical toy that plays Old MacDonald. We've got the visual printouts of both the animals to match to the puzzle pieces, but also the sounds that they make. And so there's all sorts of different speech and language activities be combined with this particular activity. And again, with those carpet squares, you can put them on a vertical plane or you can put them on a slant board, again, raising that up to increase visibility and motor access. On the right-hand side is just a shout out to core vocabulary and the different things that you can say with very few words that are play words that you can combine. For example, in cars, you can say go, stop, up, down, get, play, more, turn, etc. And then you can combine those into small phrases. So I always suggest when I'm working with people who are exploring play activities to have visuals and the voice output or whatever communication resources the student is using available. And oftentimes having those kinds of visuals available, even if the student has what we consider verbal speech, for a different way of checking for understanding. Here are some PVC pipe stabilizers, and in your resource folder, I've included the practical, versatile, cheap assistive technology supports. It's really old, it's from like 2005, but I have made so many of the stabilizers that you see on the screen to stabilize play, to make it more anything from, if as you can see on the top side is a puzzle, and it's been stabilized with a pattern for it's actually a pattern for a tablet holder, but I just used it to prop a puzzle instead, and that pattern is in your resources. It can be angled up and down to improve the reach and the vision components needed for the student to access it. Next to it is a spinner, and I saw this idea at ATIA and I loved it. It was just a couple of plastic plates that were placed on a PVC post. It's almost like a bracelet holder if you've ever had a jewelry bracelet holder. And then those puzzle pieces can spin so the student can explore them at eye level. But the nice thing about this is you can trade out the puzzle pieces and you can have all sorts of different puzzle pieces or tactile things to explore. On the right-hand side, you see sort of a mashup of that where it's a PVC holder and it's holding a clear plastic tub, and that clear plastic tub happens to be one of those big pretzel bottles from Costco. I've put a hole at either end, and then I filled it with Easter eggs for this particular activity. But because of the nature of the flexibility of PVC, how you can take it apart and put it together, this jar can be removed, and any kind of theme activity, any kind of exploration activity that lights the child's interest can be put in there, and it can be changed out constantly. So you have the same stabilizer, but you have different things to explore all the time. Right hand is just a PVC frame, and I've placed items from the dollar store. They're just hanging there for a student to explore. They could be exploring that in a sitting position, a prone position, any position you want. And at the top right hand is the same, it's an easel that kind of flips so you can angle it, and it's got the cookie sheet fastened to it. Again, a different way of displaying that cookie sheet so students can explore. So please add some of your ideas for stabilizers in the chat so we can all learn, and be sure to use the note component that has been provided by the conference organizers, because you can place these notes and everybody can share them as well. So here's some more do-it-yourself with PVC. We have that same tablet holder that I told you about, but now you can see what it looks like without the puzzle attached. You can see that the different PVC angles and T-bars have been placed on puzzle pieces. There's a PVC bowling ramp for a student who may use a wheelchair for mobility or may be sitting or reclining. You can set up that bowling ramp and they can still roll a ball down and knock over the pins. The thing I love over here is the do-it-yourself sensory table, and I actually made that up this summer. And the cool thing about it is that when you take it apart, it all fits in that little tub. So you've got all your PVC, you've got all your, you've got any of your sensory items that you want to keep in the PVC or in the tub, and you've got the PVC pipe. So it's very portable. It can be taken down and put up. There's directions for the do-it-yourself sensory table on that link, but also folder different ideas for put in the sensory table and activities that you can do with the sensory table. So it can be used all year round, and it can be used for all sorts of different reasons, from fine motor to communication. So here's some examples of some confiners, and sometimes our kids need confiners because it's hard for them to organize their tools and their play, either because of a motoric issue, a vision issue, or possibly even just an intentional issue. So this kind of puts everything into place. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's a toy corral that can be created out of PVC pipe. And just if you've never used PVC pipe, give it a try because it's inexpensive. The joints cost about 30 or so cents for each of the joints. You can get a 10-foot length of PVC pipe for less than $3. You can buy a PVC cutter at all these things are available at any of the Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards stores, and you can customize your own tools. And while it looks very light tech and maybe not very attractive, sometimes these customizations are what lead to successful use of high-tech devices, because you've developed the exact positioning or the exact angles already by mocking things up. And it avoids sometimes those missteps where we order something or buy something that doesn't quite work. The car activity in the middle. First of all, the example at the top is a car ramp that you can buy that goes along with Matchbox tools or toys. But the second part, car ramp, the one that's in the middle and between the two pictures, is something that was made at a Linda Burkhart workshop years ago. It's anchored on a piece of that carpet square that I've been talking about, but it's basically a piece of plastic that is anchored to the carpet square. And then there's a shoelace that circles that whole piece of plastic. But what makes it amazing is you've taken a straw and placed it on the bottom of the little car, hot glued it on the bottom of the little car, run the shoelace through it before you anchor the shoelace onto that plastic. Allows that car to run on that shoelace track up and down the blue plastic track. And so the student can manipulate it without it going all over the place. I'm discovery bottles on another slide, so I'm not going to say anything about that picture there for now. And then just a reminder that confiners work as well for art and music. And there's a lot of do-it-yourself confiners that you can use. I mentioned the cafeteria trays or cookie sheet trays that you can use as a confiner. There's also making pizza box easels that can act as confiners, and you can see that the handles fastened to the musical instruments speak for themselves. There's also confiners as play spaces. They can help organize where a child plays or what the child plays with. So something as simple as a box or a table tent or a bed tent can act as a confiner to just help organize that play space. And in the classrooms, I'm sure you've seen teachers who are using confiners in the form of maybe a quiet reading corner with the desk tented. So if you have any thoughts of other confiners that you've found successful or are easy to make, please mention those in the chat. So attachers are kind of self-explanatory. They're links and snaps and Velcro and shoelaces and straps and binder clips. Oh my. So these are just a couple examples. I mentioned before the frame with the dollar store items that you see on the lower right. The thing that was nice with that one is I used pool noodles for spacers so that the didn't get tangled as the student was exploring them. On the left-hand side, I've used elastic and tacks to fasten, and hot glue, of course, because we don't want those tacks loose, to fasten puzzle pieces to the puzzle so that they don't get tossed off the tray or lost. Or just disorganized. And so I've allowed enough of a length of elastic so that the puzzle pieces can be removed, but not enough so that they can be displaced and not located again. And the puzzle itself is fastened again onto that magic carpet square. Does anybody have any questions so far? I'm just yakking. If you want to just unmute yourself and ask anything, please feel free. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on pounding through, just assuring you that I've left you a lot of resources. So are you doing okay? Somebody can give me a thumbs up. Okay, so we're just going to keep going. Here are cookie sheets as attachers. There's all sorts of different things that you can use or different activities that you can do with cookie sheets. And again, keeping in mind that cookie sheets can be placed at any angle and any component can go in them, taking advantage of either the fact that they're a container for wet and sloppy and messy things, or they can be used with their magnetic resources to display at a bunch of different angles. Here's some more attachers, and on the left-hand side, there's a link to building a toddler busy board. And this particular busy board was built by a father for his toddler, and he used just things from around the house. And as you can see, it really doesn't matter if it's specifically designed as a toy implement. It should be safe, but things like light switches and sponges and ropes and keys and things like that can be fastened to a busy board. The box in the middle of the slide is just a box with holes, and the balls have been and the different things that can be poked through the holes have been attached with shower curtain rings and some cording, so students can push things in through the holes and then they can retrieve them back if they want to. The apron at the bottom is also made with little rings, and toys are attached right to the apron for a student that might need to have their toys close by. And then on the right-hand side is just a really easy on-the-go play activity made by taping a paper towel tube to a cupboard, giving the child some toys or some pom-poms or some marbles or some balls to drop through that tube. Extenders are just ways of making these toys easier to hold. Can be magic spice bottles, knobs, sponge rollers, craft sticks. Look around your house and think about the things that might be good holders, and you'll come up with a dozen, I'm sure. So we're going to not spend time on this because we've got some more ideas on holders. I do a workshop. In fact, I'm doing one tonight for the Reimagine conference with Debbie Schwind on art tools for the art class made with easily found materials. And so on the lower left-hand side, you see a couple of those art tools that we've developed with pool noodles and PVC pipe to make the art tools easier to hold and manipulate. On the right-hand side, all those Easter eggs with the plastic spoons duct taped to them in bright colors, those are homemade musical instruments. And I've included a link for 52 different homemade musical instruments that you can make with easily found materials. So finally, highlighters, and then we're going to get to some other activities, are things that make the toy or the item stand out. So students with maybe low vision or low attention see it and are attracted to it. It makes it pop. So some of the examples are putting things on Venetian blinds so that the light shines from behind them. Using the light bracelets that you can get even at the dollar store for joggers who jog at night, that can be placed on a student's body so that they light when the student moves the tool, and that may attract their eye to their hand a little bit more. The little finger flashlights that you can get at Oriental Trader, outlining with one or more different colors and with one or more different sensory surfaces, so students can discriminate shapes. Mr. Potato Head has the holes where the body parts are pushed in, highlighted with a pipe cleaner or a wiki stick so that student can see where to push the hole and also feel where to push the body part into the hole. And then finally, a different way using a light box. And there are there's a link to 50 ways to using a light box, and also directions for making a do-it-yourself light table with parchment paper, one of those inexpensive tubs, and the battery-operated twinkle lights. Oh, there's one more, simplifiers, limiting the number of toy or choice pieces, contrasting color surfaces, and removing clutter. And these are just some homemades. As you can see, sometimes a shape sorter can be way overwhelming. There's I don't know how many shapes with a shape sorter, 12 or so. This has been simplified to 2 shapes, triangle and square, and the student might have more success with just starting out with that and building from there. And that's also that scaffolding piece. Also having just one hole to put in and having whatever you put in roll out by the way that you cut the box. And then simplifying with choices. So I'd love to hear some of your ideas for simplifiers. And again, if you place them in the chat, that would be terrific. So sensory play, I've included some information on different Play-Dohs and even display mats for encouraging what you can do with Play-Doh and things like that. Sparklebox is a favorite of mine. This is linked here. They have sensory mats for everything, and they're organized by theme. So there might be a fall theme with sensory mats. There might be a counting theme with sensory mats. There's also a lot of dough recipes that you can find right there in Sparklebox. Again, reminding you that children with sensory may not always be able to tolerate textures, and that ingredients in some of the commercial and homemade doughs may cause allergic reactions, and the dough could be a choking hazard. So it's always important to think about who you're making this for or who you're introducing the activity for, and whether you're doing it because they're interested or whether you're doing it because someone else wants them to manipulate dough. At the end of this presentation is a link to activation stations. This is from Dade County in Florida, and they have tons of visuals that are already made. So as you can see on the right-hand side, visuals that might go along with the Play-Doh activity. So these are just additional links that you can explore for things that you can do. If Play-Doh is a motivation for the student, but they just have difficulty using it or are sensitive to the Play-Doh that you have, there's Play-Doh tips for a child with special needs, and that's linked, and 53 homemade Play-Doh recipes. And a lot of time the making of the Play-Doh will desensitize a child who doesn't really enjoy the tactile pieces, the tactile of exploring. So so it's the motivation in using it afterwards. So I do have a collection of sensory bags and bottles that you can explore at your leisure. It's all sorts of that are inside a bottle or a bag to make them easier to explore and manipulate. And so that the link at the top that's underlined that says sensory bags will take you to a wide variety of them. And as you see on the right hand side, there's lots of examples of the things that you can put in the sensory bags, anything from objects from the dollar store to hair gel to Play-Doh to rice to bubbles, etc. This is a wonderful, wonderful activity that online. You have to download it from the OT Toolbox. It's called a sensory room. And when you download this from, it's free. You have to sign in, but it is free. Each of these tools or activities on the wall that you see displayed, when you click on it, it will take you to a specific activity like the tube that has the bubbles going up it and so on. The aquarium will take you to a video of fish swimming. The Rubik's Cube will take you to a digital resource and manipulate the Rubik's Cube, etc. So this would be one of those things that you can introduce that are working or playing or exploring at home. Example from the sensory I'm going to actually open up and play with you. So I'm opening it up right now, and when it loads, it takes just a minute to load, and then it populates, and you pop bubble wrap. And probably about this time, with me yakking at you for all this time, and we only have a little over 10 minutes left, you have just about hit your max. And so if you do nothing else, get the PDF of my slides and play with the bubble wrap. So here's directions for making a multi-sensory gel board for drawing and writing. This is more information on sensory bottles, and there's actually even a great video from Understood that explains why a student might benefit from sensory bottles. It talks about sensory processing issues, and then there's a whole bunch of do-it-yourself on making sensory bottles. Sensory bins, I mentioned before when I talked about making that PVC bin. There's a link to using sensory bins in speech therapy. That's just a fantastic link on why you might do it. On the left-hand side is one that you can buy at Michael's. It runs about $18, but I really encourage you to just take a look at the resources that have been collected and make your own. One of the speech therapy websites has an I Spy group of activities that you can do. So you can stick all those in the sensory tub and have the student find those. There's a checklist when they find them. There's also even, they think of everything, sensory bin rules, so that a child that might be tempted to toss everything out has maybe a social story before they start in what is expected behavior for the sensory bins. I'm not going to talk about fun with cooking. I just want to mention that the Accessible Chef website has great cooking and recipe activities, but the best is you can actually create recipes. There's a section where you can create your own recipes and customize them for the things that your student may want to cook, and their visual recipes, so that they don't require writing or reading. So here's some simple puzzle adaptations. I talked about the elastic already. There's adaptations for manipulating the puzzle with bottle caps. There's assembling puzzles with photographs that are of particular interest to the child. So this particular child liked tigers, and so we found a picture of a tiger. We decoupaged it with white glue and water onto a series of tongue blades. We cut them apart with an X-Acto knife. And we also have a puzzle can be successfully assembled if a student is working on numeracy or can match numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or sequence them. And at the bottom, you see puzzle pieces that can be matched by the tactile input at the bottom, as well as by the picture inside. Here's some more puzzling ideas, taking advantage of handles and magnets. Both store-bought and do-it-yourself. And again, the puzzle visual from Adaptation Station, and that link is at the very end. I think it's like slide 69 or something in this slide deck. So here's some other ideas on high contrast puzzles and more. And these are from a CVI, Make It and Take workshop. And there's also a CVI Do-It-Yourself. And as you can see, providing the high contrast on this puzzle for matching those puzzle pieces to their shape makes a big difference. So here's some adaptations for card games and card holders. These are simple and self-explanatory, hairbrushes and bottles. And if you haven't seen the milk carton flip shoot, it's a lot of fun. It's easy to make, takes about 5 minutes. When you insert a two-sided card through the slot, you can see the one side going in, and the way that you've constructed the milk carton means that the other side of the flipped up when it comes through the chute. And I did not mean to, but there's the directions. I didn't mean to click on that link because we are not going to have enough time to even get to most of the digital resources. So I apologize in advance. And I hope this is beneficial to you. I hope it's beneficial to you from the standpoint of a resource, if nothing else. And again, I hope you are using the chat and adding your own thoughts. These are some ideas on adapting board games. Simple, magnetic attraction, which we've talked about, and different ways of accessing it. There is a website of board game hacks, and the thing is that there are big ones and little ones and all sorts of shapes. So you can see simple things like putting Velcro on the spaces on the board games, or wrapping the tokens so that they're easier to hold. The one that I really love is making it into a full-size board game in a gymnasium. You can see that on the lower left-hand picture on the slide. We need to do more with dress up because it gives our kids an introduction to the possibilities of what they might do when they grow up. And so you can see on the right-hand side, dress up can be as simple as a milk jug cut up as a space helmet and a couple of 2-liter bottles for oxygen. And it can go all the way up to very highfalutin costumes, like the one that you can see with the young man using a wheelchair for mobility, and he has his costume built around him. On the lower left-hand picture, you can see kids going through a homemade car wash on scooter boards. And the people who were facilitating the car wash, kids went through the underneath a sand table. They were sprayed with water, and as they got out the other side, they were dried with a hair dryer. So they actually got to experience maybe what a car experience is going. Car wash, and for some of our kids, that experience. We can always play with words, and this is just an example of gathering a whole bunch of different items that go with the word go for core vocabulary and for a whole and I would be happy to explain those contents to you. You can just instant message me or email me, and we can talk more about that. So switch adapted battery operated toys. I think I included some basic easy ways of doing that, so you could do it yourself or show a parent how they can do it yourself. The business card switch interrupter is Therese Wilcomb's one. So if a parent has a simple battery operated toy with an on-off switch and a couple of batteries, they can make a battery interrupter that's at one end of a piece of stereo wire and a switch at the other end with a business card or anything that opens and closes. And as you can see, my open and close for that same thing is a CD holder that I have mentioned into a switch. This is a great video when you're thinking about switches to think about the positioning of the. It's a really great thing to show teachers and parents because it uses a puppet. So it's not a bossy, like I'm talking at you, like I'm doing with this slideshow. It's the puppet that kind of guides the exploration of different places for the switch. And as you can see, that switch has been angled, so it would be easy to right hand. It would be easy to have a sweep of, as opposed to having to lift the hand and put it onto the switch to activate it. There's some mouse adaptations to make the mouse easier to use if your students are using digital sources. And I'm just going to whip ahead for a couple of slides, and I'm going to stop in 1 or 2 minutes to take questions and just assure you that the rest of these slides are available for your use. These are free activities to support use of switches in special education classrooms and the switching skills and Ian Bean's website. So these are all different things that you can do online with switches. This is adorable. I have to show this to you. This is from Tar Heel Gameplay. You can, when you sign up for Tar Heel Gameplay, you can select any YouTube video from the internet, and you can turn it into a Switch toy. So you're going to see this, and then the prompt for using the switch, and that has been customized. It took about 5 minutes to make. So I'm just going to, so I programmed this to say, what is that? I also programmed it to read it out loud. And then when I click on it, it will continue the story. Come on. I think I clicked too much. There we go. I am going to stop this to my slides, and then I think, unfortunately, I am going to exit them because I would love to talk to you for just a minute. I am so sad, and I am so apologetic that I went through so many different things. I didn't even get a chance to talk about adaptations for books, but these are all linked and linked and linked and linked. So they're all self-explanatory. And they can tell you about what you can do to adapt books. If you haven't gone to Rhode Island Materials Access site, she not only has available books to check out that are adapted for Rhode Island residences, residents, but she has those same books. She's developed a thing link for them so that anybody who visits that can use the links and make their own. So you don't have to be in Rhode Island, and that access site is there. This is a parenting special needs online magazine with ideas on toys and play. These are the Hasbro toy guides that I told you about. Don't forget, Melissa and Doug includes a lot of printables and activities. And that's the adaptation station that I told you about for visuals. Your play takeaway is I didn't do it justice, and I tried to cram too much into 45 minutes, so I apologize. So please contact me. And now I'm going to stop sharing so I can see you. And do you have any questions? Whew. Anybody have any thoughts, any questions? You can't find the slides themselves around the resources. They are in there. They're PDF. Oh, good. You found them. I'm looking at the chats real quick. They're PDF and they may not have been recognizable right away. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And again, I apologize. Please let the organizers know that 45 minutes isn't enough time. And I would really welcome your suggestions on what things you would have wanted to have focused if it was just an in-depth 45 minutes as opposed to a whiz so fast, because I'm trying to do better. But did we get any other resources from you all? I'm looking. I don't see any, but if you about different things that you'd like to add to it, there is that little document, the crowdsourced document, so you can add those ideas to the crowdsourced document. And any ideas that you add, I will put into the Google Drive as well, and you will always have access to it until I don't have access to Google anymore. And yes, I would totally love Harrison to do this as a make and take. And I have done this as a make and take in different conferences, both in live or with giving people certain amounts of materials to either collect or sending them those materials, and we make and take as we talk. That's yes, the adaptive art, the reimagined conference in those notes. And if you revisit the notes, I will put it in the address in the notes. That conference is going on all month, and they're both live and recorded sessions. And you can log in and you get course credit for them too. So I will make sure that I will get that to you. I'll put it in the crowdsourced notes. Anybody else have any questions? You can unmute yourself. I said I would entertain questions, and then I have not given you a chance to put a word in. So I'm going to be quiet real quick. Hello.
If you do have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put them in the chat, and she'll be able to address them. So I know we have the next seminar starting, but we still have about 15 minutes. So.
Oh, really? We can hang out?
It's lunch break.
Oh, okay. Well, let me see for anybody that's going to stick around for a minute. Let me minimize and see if I can find the Reimagine link because you can still register. Oh, I found it. Hold on, you guys. Oh, maybe not. Oh, it's listed. See if you can get in. If you can't get in this way, just instant message me and I will try again. I will still find the other. Now I'm trying to make this big again. Sorry, here we go. I'll put this in the chat. Oh, thank you, Harrison. Geez. And here's the direct link to the art toolkit that I'm doing tonight, but you have to register, I think. That's the art toolkit that I'm doing tonight with the wonderful, wonderful Deborah Schwind, who is a really creative occupational therapist. She is in Loudoun County, Virginia, where I used to work. And she has also, if you have not read anything or seen anything that she's done on in-school community-based instruction, starting out at the elementary school level. She's got the kids organized. They're doing the lost and found. They're working in the cafeteria. They have a garden. They do a farmer's market. But all of this is in collaboration with the principal, the teacher, the custodian, the cafeteria guy, everybody. They're working together. Those kids are completely integrated into the school community, and all their academics are embedded. They still go to inclusive classrooms, and are involved in the regular academics, but then they also have this special activity. They work a couple of hours a week with these on-site jobs, and they are just amazing. And if you go to innovations and transition, I think if you search in your browser for that link and scroll down, you'll see a video of her work. And if you are interested in learning more about it, you can also contact me, and I will make sure that you get some of her resources. But yeah, we did these art toolkits a bunch of years ago, and we continue to promote them because they are art tools that anybody can make and use in a matter of minutes. And they're really empowering. Yeah, if you go, Jackie, if you go to the Rhode Island Materials Access site, scroll down and look at the lending library of adapted books. And there's actually a video. Becky Jones is the one that made the video, a video on how to use her resources and how to use Thingling. But not all of the lending library books have the Thingling available. She just started doing that about 8 or 9 months ago, I think. So some of the older books don't have the Thingling link, but don't be discouraged because there's a ton of them that do, and they're really creative, and they're using resources that are free, like the free Teacher Pay Teacher adapted books. There's always some. She's using lesson picks visuals. She's using websites that have videos. She's using Tar Heel Reader. But they're really, really beautifully put together. Oh, and she always has things for kids with cortical visual impairment. So there's always the high contrast visuals and activities. So take a look at them. And Jackie, as I said, if you still can't find them, just email me and I'll get you, I'll link you to a specific book so you can see how that works. And so easy. You just need some cardstock, a printer, and a sheet protector or some lamination film, and you're good to go. There's also a webinar or a workshop, an online workshop that Sally Norton-Dar and I did on adapting books. It's a 3-part one. It's for our TTAC in Virginia, but anybody can log on, create a login, and look at it runs about maybe 3 hours for the 3 parts, an hour a piece. But we did a more in-depth presentation on adapting books and all the different resources. And so some of those book things that I threw in the slideshow are from that adapted book. I'm going blank now. I tried to talk so fast, my brain hasn't caught up, but it's from the adapted book workshops that we did. I've been really passionate about adapting books since, almost 20 years now. I saw something at ATIA by some folks down in Louisiana or somewhere, Jim Abner and Gabby Holland, I think. I might be mixing them up with another group, but they had buckets of literacy, and all the things, all the thematic activities that went with the book went in one of those Home Depot buckets. And it was awesome because you could just pick up that bucket and you had puppets and you had math activities and you had tangibles and you had visuals and you had the adapted book. And so we started a lending library where I worked in Loudoun County and adapted a ton of books and made a ton of adapted book kits. Because as you know, teachers don't have time to do all of that. And so it was, we did that to sort of show them what they could do. And then they could borrow one kit as opposed to having to make a kit and then using it all year round because it took so long to make the kit in the first place. And then we also did workshops so that they could make their own and exchange them among themselves. But once you get hooked on adapting books, I mean, you just can't stop. And with so many online resources that go along with them, so you can watch the video of the book, you can put the book into Tar Heel gameplay. You can add all sorts of different components to it. You can actually make the book into a background for Zoom, and you can tell the story in front of the pages and do all the props and stuff. So there's all sorts of crazy things that you can do that I just think are amazing. So it never gets old for me to do the adapted books. So I'm just yakking again, and I think, oh no, Jackie's still there. You guys turn off your mics or turn on your mics and talk to me. Or maybe you're just placeholding at this point and you've all gone to lunch, which is fine. I understand.
I think we actually need to wrap up soon so everybody can go to lunch.
Okay, and please just delete all this yakky yak at the end of this presentation when you upload it, because nobody needs to hear me.
Thank you, everybody, for coming to this presentation. It has been absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much for being here and speaking with us and sharing such amazing information. Looks like we do have one person that came onto video, I think, to ask a question.
Oh, I just wanted to say bye and thank you. I'm going to try to sign up for the Adaptive Art Conference.
Okay.
I hope I have the right link there, because.
But Jennifer,
Virginia School District.
Jennifer, if you don't, it's live, or it's not live, but it's all the things are going to be recorded and they're available all month, the month of September. So you can still watch, you can watch the recording if you can't see it live. And Mary Keeney is on the screen. She and her partners in Arizona did a fabulous workshop on sensory breaks and brain breaks and things like that. And that was Tuesday night, and I highly recommend it.
Wow.
They did an awesome, what do you call it? Padlet with all of the resources. And that's what I should have done, so you could have seen them all scrolling up and down. So it's fantastic.
Great.
So good luck, Jennifer. And one way or the other, you'll be able to watch that stuff.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Take care, everybody. Enjoy lunch, and we will see you at 12:30 for the keynote speaker.
Thank you so much for helping me today.
Take care. Unfortunately, my Zoom is messing up.